Yeah, let's begin. So in the last live stream, I explained how you would write your own entity provider, and instead of like writing catalog info YAML files, um, you can like if you have any other external source, like you have a registry already where you have all the components, you can feed data from there. But today, I'm going to explain like how you can actually take control over that pipeline of processing those entities, and then you can attach like more meaningful metadata into the ingested entity. And I mentioned two examples. Am I audible now? Can you write in the chat? Thank you. So one example is companies often ask. I have an entity and like I want to give it some kind of badge. Like I want to say like this service meets all the standards that I have in my company, and this is like a gold tier service that meets all the checks. It has all the test coverage. It has an on-call rotation, like any kinds of checks that you can imagine. So how do I dynamically add that data inside catalog? Maybe when you open an entity, and I'm going to open the demo Backstage environment. Let's say you open an entity and you want to see some like badges in here. So you can like dynamically write a custom processor which can attach that metadata into the entity. Second example would be, let's say you have all the users in catalog, and like that is being fed from Workday. Um, so, but there's not a lot of information on Workday. Like you would have just the name of the employee and their location. But let's say you use Slack or something like that inside your company, and users add more details in Slack, like their favorite bands or I don't know, their birthday, their team, more data that you would want to display in software catalog for a user. So same, you can write a custom processor where you can like call your external service like Slack, and then attach more meaningful data in here. So that's an example of why you would want to write a custom processor. And now I would just like to get into it. And I can't code without some music. So let me play some music and turn down the volume. Hope this is zoomed in enough. Okay, so if you need to follow along, the documentation page which I'm following is called External Integrations, and it's inside Core Features, Software Catalog, and then External Integrations. And there's an example of custom entity providers, but also custom processors in here. So let me show you. So this example actually like goes more advanced and says that, let's say you want to have your own types of locations. Like the default way to add an entity, like the standard, is that you point it to a URL, to a catalog info YAML file, and this file contains the metadata for the entity, like the name, type, additional links, whatever. But this shows that, let's say we create a new type called system X, and system X, whenever a type of location whenever an entity is coming from a location which is of type system X, we're going to create a separate processor, which is system X reader processor. And this is the only processor which is able to process all locations coming from system X, and it doesn't care if it's coming from a type URL, it's not going to process it. So yeah, like we are, so for now, we're going to look more into what are the possibilities with a custom processor, which are not explained in here. So as always, if you want to add a new custom entity provider or a custom entity processor, you update your catalog.ts inside backend. So you go to packages and then backend, then source, catalog. So source plugins. So in here, you can see from last Friday, we added a new entity provider. But today, we're going to write a custom processor. So let's comment this out. And let's create a new file. We can call this custom processor.ts. Let me fix the notice problem. And then copy the code block from external integrations. And I'm going to call this the best custom processor. We'll find a better name soon. And let's import it inside our packages backend catalog.ts. Cool. Now that we have our processor, we're going to attach it to the builder. So we create a builder using catalog builder.create. Then you can see that there's a scaffolder entities processor, which is separate. And we can add a new processor in here. And I think it needs needs a reader. This reader is URL reader, which is part of the core offerings inside Backstage. And you can read from external resources and not worry about authentication with that resource, with that external service. Do I need a reader? I think I can skip it for now. So let's just skip URL reader in here. One less dependency. Actually, the code block is outdated because get processor name is a mandatory field now. So take a note, and I'm going to do a live PR. So yeah, I also have the definition of catalog processor. So we can look into this class in a bit, but let's just update the code block and add get processor name returns a string. And system X reader processor. Should be fine. I wonder what's the latest with VS Code spaces. Like, if this would have opened in a VS Code like online instance, then that'd be pretty cool. But sure, if they still available for free users like me. It's an open source project, so I don't think it makes sense to pay for VS Code spaces. Code spaces. Okay, so I had a processor name. I think it makes sense. Okay. Box. Processor name is code sample for custom processors. And if you're committing to Backstage, you need a signed off by. Otherwise, commits are going to fail this DCO check. Box custom processor. It's not mandatory. It's required. It's a required method. Cool. Simple code changes works, and we keep our documentation healthy and up to date. Okay, so thanks for a little bearing with me on a little detour. But let's continue. So I have my custom processor here. Why is this constructor? Oh, it's a useless constructor. Oh dear, VS Code. Okay. Useless constructor. It's good. Be humble. Okay, so let me just remove this entire or comment this entire read location thingy, because I want to explore what are the properties inside catalog processor. And I would like to show you some code to do that. So the first customization you can do with a custom processor is that you can, with a new processor, you can get a location. And if you understand how Backstage works, a location is a place where you are feeding entities from. Typically, a location is a type of URL. It's a literal entity which exists inside. Oh, entity is confusing. It's a literal thing which exists inside software catalog. So it's of type URL, and the location will be like HTTPS, GitHub, somewhere catalog info YAML. If it's a location of type file, then it will point to a local file which contains the entity metadata. But these locations are fed to processors, and then processors are responsible for actually fetching what is the content in that location and like what to do with them. So if you want to get control over like processing locations, this is the method you would overwrite, which is what this example has done. It reads a location, and it checks like, hey, I only want to deal with locations of type system X. So yeah, if it's not, then just I don't want to process them. Maybe there's another processor which is going to take care of that. Then it just does some reading, and then it finally emits. So this emit function is actually part of the catalog processor core, and you just call the emit function to generate an entity, like a processed entity. So if we go back to the life of an entity, Processor's responsibility is to take unprocessed entities and then generate processed entities, relations, errors. But also, if you look at this back loop, it can also like generate unprocessed entities, and maybe another processor knows best about processing it. So, for example, if we are running this processor on location which doesn't have the type system X, it's not going to do anything. So it's basically going to create another unprocessed entity. So what do we want to do here? Let's first do something with, I would say, not users, but services. And let's attach a custom tag to that entity. And we can attach a tag. And if you don't know what tags are, go to catalog. You can find the tags here. So the service has the tag Java and playback. So tags could be like their programming languages. Tags could be, I don't know, production, like lifecycle of it. Although lifecycle is a first class part of the spec, so and that doesn't make any sense. But like anything that is custom to your organization, you can add as part of a tag. So let's add tags to it, and for now we can say tier 1 to tier 4, and then we'll generate a random number and then attach a tag to a particular service. But ideally, what you would have done is that you have a service which contains the information about how good that particular service is. Like, for example, this playback order thing. Does it meet all the checks that my organization has decided upon? For example, does it use the latest database version? Does it use any dependencies which are like really out of date? Does it have any dependencies which are maybe a security threat? So these kind of checks, like it depends on like yours, whatever you want to do. But for now, I'll just show you like how you can modify this entity and then attach that tag. So read location is not something I'm interested in because I'm particularly interested in one of these two things. So there's another method which you can override, and that's pre-process entity. And then there's a post-process entity. What's the difference? So first of all, a processor reads the location. That location emits unprocessed entity. Then you pre-process it. It could be nothing, like you don't do anything here at all, but pre-process, and then you validate. So I think validation is just whether it contains all the fields that are required that needs to exist in the system. So it validates the entity as a known entity kind after it has been pre-processed and has passed all the basic overall validation. Once the validate is done, you post-process them. And of course, this is optional, so you don't have to do all these steps. So somewhere in the whole pipeline, we're going to like say, you know what? Let's attach a tag in this entity. So I'm going to do this in post-process entity. Once they're validated, I'm going to do something which I don't know as of now. And that's the part of the thrill, live programming, and we'll see if it works out. So post-process entity, does it need? I'm just going to copy that. It's entity, then location, and takes an emit function, then something about cache. And then it returns an entity. Yep. So, and all of these are, yeah, none of these are optional, so I have to take everything. Cool. Why don't I log something? Because who doesn't like to begin with logging? Do I not have an access to logger here? Oh, I need that. So inside my catalog.ts file, inside packages backend, I'm going to pass a logger. And this end thing contains a lot of things like URL reader and then logger as well. Have it. Read only. Type logger, which comes from and here I can do logger.info, and you know the keyword Himanshu. I'm inside my custom processor. Okay, let's see what oh, it needs a return type. Need an entity type from the catalog model package. We need a catalog processor cache, which will be from catalog node module. I think I don't need this. Yeah, it's not a arrow function, so a function whose declared type is neither void or any must return a value. Ooh, makes sense. Now I'm just going to return this, and then let's not worry about TypeScript for now. But so what I want to show here is that when I'll start catalog, it's going to run my processor, and then it's going to get an entity, and then for every entity, it's going to log this line. So let's see if it happens. Start. So I'm starting the catalog backend, and then I'm just waiting for my processor to trigger. And expecting some log statements with Himanshu in the beginning. My fan is spinning. Jesus, that's like 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes to start the backend. Okay. Something. I see something. And there we go. So we see our logs from our custom processor, and then it says processing of location. I cannot say properties undefined. There's some errors because I probably returned an empty entity after that. So yeah, if your processor like is misconfigured, it can actually ruin your entities. So be careful when you're writing a processor and when modifying entities, because if it's misconfigured, then it's going to be a problem. But we got that. Let's print the entity and see how it looks. Why don't I just return the entity here itself? But let's print entity. It's supposed to return a promise. Is it necessary that I should return a promise here? That's yeah. I mean, depends if I'm doing any async operation there, but I'm not. I guess I'm not supposed to like return entity. I'm supposed to like emit an entity. No. We'll figure out. I think I just keep return here. It's a promise. We're printing the entities and see how they look. And it's an object. Okay. What about JSON dot stringify? Right, there we go. So it's an object, and then it contains like the YAML basically in a JSON format. So you can see it contains the metadata object. It has the namespace, annotations. Then I think we'll have a tag in here as well. So where are tags stored? If we check the YAML file format, and for a kind component, tags. It's part of the metadata. So inside metadata, I can just attach some tags, and then that'll be done. So what I can do here is just for now, we can say entity dot tags. If it exists, and just append a new tag into it. If it doesn't, then we'll basically create an array. So how about if entity dot tags, push my custom tag else dot tags equals to my custom tag. Oh yeah, it's metadata tags. Metadata. Then yeah. So now I need to return a promise. Is it like, how do I promisify this? So I can just create a new promise here, right? New promise. Well, of course I don't remember. Create a new promise. Yeah, resolve, reject. Yeah, something like this. So return new promise. Solve. Solve the entity. Should work. These are useless. I don't need location, don't need emit, don't need cache. So let's prefix them with underscore. All right. So what we have done here is that in our custom processor, we take all the entities and just add a new tag to the entities. And let's see if they appear. Any errors? You need to restart the application, maybe. Okay, try and use it. Okay, I think I need to restart. So let's do that. To look at this graph, my activity monitor. Jesus, I only have like 3 GBs left. Yeah, I started this live stream and I was on mute. I also mentioned that we did a Backstage community session on Wednesday. And if you were not there, you can catch up with the recording on the Backstage community YouTube channel. And one of the things we did was there was a live demo of search. So yeah, check out the Backstage community sessions. That all entities are being printed because I have that logger.info thing. But let's start our Backstage and see if those tags do actually appear. So I only have the backend started here. Let me start the front end. Everything is so slow. So I'm starting the Backstage front end, and we're expecting a new tag called my custom tag to appear for basically each entity. So the front end hasn't even started. The back end has processed all the entities twice. Let's see. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes. And now I have my custom tag in all the entities. So yeah, we just waited like 10 minutes for backend and front end to start. But anyway, we were successfully able to add a new tag in our entity. The way we did it was we wrote a custom processor, which and then we overwrote. We wrote a post process entity method, which takes an entity supposed to be processed. The entity is just another JSON object. And then we do some logic, and then we modify the entity, and then we return a promise for that. So what else can we do here? First of all, what we can do is that we can say if entity dot type metadata dot type component, then only do this. So only change things for components and not for like users and groups and systems and domains, like other types of entities. So don't change them. And let's see if so the backend is restarting. So now my custom processor should only have modified entities of type component. Did it do this right? I think it's kind, right? So entity, if we look at the spec, entities have metadata, and then entity metadata has, where's the kind? Entity has kind, so I should have done entity.kind. Keep the entity class open. So entity.kind. Right. Triple equals. And restart the backend. Oh, there's an error. There's an error. That's it. Because of something we did. No, that's from search. Know that. Refresh, and we should only have entities of kind components. Is it because of lowercase? Not sure. So we didn't get new tags. That sucks. So the kind here is a component. There's no new tags. So what's the kind like? Let's continue printing what the entities look like, and then we'll find out. Let's see. So entity kind. Oh, component is a capital C. Okay. So we can't assume that. Yeah, just a case issue. But now. Backend starts. Perfect. So all the components have those my custom tag, but all the users shouldn't have it. There we go. All the APIs shouldn't have it. There we go. So we can, inside our custom processor, we can in fact do these kind of like checks. So don't change entities if they're not like something that we should be concerned about. So what else can we do here? Let's say we can, let's say for all the components, we have some kind of like all third-party service and get a component score. And then we can say attach that score as a tag or annotation on the entity. And then let's say you have a plugin which is able to show some, when my backend is starting. It's able to show like a card on your entity page, and it can read a annotation on that component and show that. Let's do one more thing here. Let's for every user, like if entity.kind thing dot lowercase is the user, then we can let's say call Slack API, and then do like entity.metadata.annotations, and we can just say like Backstage IO Slack profile, and just attach my key value to like it's on you, like go crazy. It's really that simple. Just change the entity however you would like, and then it just gets populated. So that are our custom processors. And just to recap, like we added just the way we would add a new entity provider inside our catalog builder. There's one more thing. It's the cache part of it. So let's say you're reading from this external service, which gives you a component score, but it shouldn't always change. Like a component score shouldn't, like a score might depend on the test coverage, but that might not always change. So you can use some inbuilt cache storage, and then utilize it so that you don't, because processing will run, I don't know, every minute, every 10 minutes for all your entities. And then if you're making request to that external source all the time, then it's going to be costly. So use cache whenever you'd like inside your custom processor. So that is all on custom processors, really, and it's really powerful, but also quite risky as you're basically modifying entities and have more control. But it lets you achieve a lot of things via code, and that's why I love it. So yeah, I don't have much else to share. Something else that I was thinking was for these live streams, why don't we look at Discord and just take a look at what are some of the things people are asking, and maybe have a discussion ongoing on those things, and maybe help out some of the folks. So why don't I take like 5 to 10 minutes and go through Discord, and then answer some of the questions we have in there. If you are not aware, we have the Backstage Discord community. Link can be found on Backstage GitHub under community. There's Discord chat room. So I'll be back in a second. See you soon. I just need some water. All right, let's do it. So yeah, there's a meetup channel where we post a lot. Well, you'll see a lot of me in here. But yeah, we post a lot about the Backstage community sessions and events happening across. There's this new jobs channel, which is amazing, where you can find jobs related to Backstage. But let's look at support and see what's happening. Oops, Freven is on holiday, but still answering questions. There is a discussion on entity names. Maybe I should zoom in. That should be good. This is even better. Looks like all the questions in support are answered. So get general. There's a thread I have. A team recently had to dive into the databases of Backstage. Is there a documentation for the databases? Only thing we could find here is going through the migration files. Mostly we were hoping to understand what the columns and tables were for. And until we found the migration file, we were left to make assumptions. To some extent, the migration files can help, but even then one has to parse multiple files. That makes sense. It'd be nice to have this surfaced in a more consumable way. This would help prevent people from making incorrect assumptions. That's true. So yeah, like there are some of the, like especially the catalog DB. It has a lot of tables, and it's all a mystery to me too. Is there a way when using the entity filter to specify a not condition, like give me all groups where metadata.name is not some group? That's a really good question. So this is part of catalog client. Let's look inside catalog client, which I believe is a package. Yes. And catalog client should have a get entities. Yep, get entities. And then it takes filter from requests. Now filter can be like this or that, like metadata.name is this, type is that. But I'm just checking if there is a way to set a not, possibility to do not. But I don't think there is one. It'd be really, really cool if there is one. So demo.backstage.io, and then I have filters in here. Can I do kind is not equals to complete? No, that doesn't work. So yeah. Is there a way to have all the traffic for a backend plugin endpoint go through a single server process instance. I have a situation where there is some unfortunate statefulness that we need to provide an API for. So it would be that if we have 10 backend processes, all traffic for this particular backend endpoint needs to go to this one process. It's not ideal, but wondering if there's any way to even attempt it. Well, if you know what plugin is, like if there's only one plugin, you can do the stateful thing you need to do inside that plugin. Like once the request is received by the plugin, you can do that. Through a single server process. So, well, there's like, so the backend plugins are basically just a collection of routes, and like it's basically your package's backend source index.ts file, and then you define all the like API routes and in here and what should happen to those requests. So, well, in my opinion, you can, I believe, you can like add custom handlers, like for Express in Node, you can add handlers which can handle basically all the requests and then like do something on top of it. So that's one way before like the process actually is received by the backend plugin. So and how about so it's index.ts and yeah, like create a middleware which can deal with your requests before they are provided, before they are received by the backend. OrkoHunter, any idea? Well, what was the question? We are not able to fetch the length of the array using the hash sign in bash. Is it the bug with Backstage, or is there any way so we can fix it? There's this bash script. Hey, not an expert in bash. What is this old keys? Can you print the value and see if it exists? Okay, I will try to print the old keys values, but if the values does not exist, then does it give the error? OrkoHunter, we just want to push that script file on GitLab. Executing that script still gives me the error of I don't know, man. This is an incoherent conversation. Do you mean tab CI? Still suggest printing the value before and for debugging purposes is if the if statement not valid. You'll never know if it would work or not. Also to add else to the check saying all keys. It's not as expected. Let's do one more. Visual design. What's happening here? Andre is taking care of everything. Deployment. Hey folks, are there a set of best practices for deploying a Backstage instance at large scale? Is this documented? Good platform agnostic best practices and cloud platform specific practices will be of great help. Thank you in advance. So all we have here I think there are a lot of adopters with great ideas on this, so I'll let them chime in. The deployment docs are in that. Okay, cool. So that was me answering a few questions on Discord. Some catalog questions. There's a lot of questions in Discord, and it's all the time. So thank you so much if you're answering them. I think it's really amazing. All right. So yeah, I would like to stop now, and yeah, so yeah, we covered catalog custom processors, we covered catalog custom entity providers. Let me know what you would like me to cover next time, and yeah, maybe something in scaffolder, maybe something in auth. Yeah, I'm just thinking of ideas here. So coolio, you know where to find me. I'm OrkoHunter on Twitter, LinkedIn. Message me. Let's have a chat, and see you next Friday. Bye bye. Take care.